Okay, so what are some examples of the class Mammalia that we've talked about so far? Animals now. Okay, what order are kangaroos in? Mm-hmm. Starts with an M. Yep, they're referred to as marsupials. The order would be Marsupialia, which chances are, if you can remember that, you're going to be able to remember what the actual order is. And if you just put marsupials on there, we're not all zoologists in here. We just try to do our best. Okay, what's another mammal?
Platypus.
Okay, so what order is the duck-billed platypus in? Okay, so maybe I should have backed up to the marsupials. What is it that places those animals in that order? Yes. And what else, perhaps? Yeah, need to be a little more specific. All mammals, with the exception of one, gives birth to live mammals.
They develop in their mother's pouch.
But what does that mean when they're born, though? Yeah, they're immature. They cannot develop on their own. They have to make their way to the mother's pouch to probably grab onto different types of nutrients, because it's the female mammals that have this special gland. Yeah, the mammary glands. And what is it that those mammals are getting from that specific gland? Okay, what's the composition? Milk, which would be possibly lots of protein, sugars, and probably most importantly, fats. Because if that animal wants to put on weight really, really fast, what's the best way to do that? Isn't sugars, taking in fats. And those come in different types of, let's say, what's the right word I'm looking for? Different components, because one of the aspects that the seniors are discussing now are lipids. In this category, this is where you could say physiology within the human body overlaps chemistry. So that's where we get the term biochemistry, because a lot of the per se common acids, okay, humans do need these in their diets, whether it's saturated fats, unsaturated fats, and as we can see down here, polyunsaturated fats. Where do these different types of components come from? Well, a lot from what their diet actually is. And in this case, comes from the mother's milk. Now, that will change in any type of female mammal as that, you could say, adolescent grows. So what is going to cause the different types of fat level and sugar level inside that milk? There's not a chance, no offense, that you're going to, because you just haven't been taught this yet. Okay? It's more so of a zoological process or anatomy and physiology one. But what is it that would control those components inside the milk? It's a type of chemical compound. Some of you might just say, on a lucky guess, it's this, and you say, because which type of organism we're talking about? The female. That's a pretty big clue right there. See, there again, it's just one of the things you haven't been taught that, especially when it comes to calves during the calving season. Those infant or baby calves have to put a lot of weight on real quick, because chances are, how long do they lay flat on the ground? Days? Hours? Probably not even hours, maybe even just minutes. Us as klutzy humans, how long are we on the ground?
A year or two.
Probably not, hopefully not.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's when you're possibly going to start to become, going from quadrupedal to bipedal, starting to walk around 7 to 9 months. But it's the hormones inside the female's body that's going to actually control not consciously. Just the way the man upstairs designed us is that the hormone levels inside the mama cow's body will control subconsciously the amount of hormonal level, which also causes fat levels to go up, sugar levels to go up and down, provided what it is the infant actually needs. Okay, so then what is the characteristic of the duck-billed platypus that places them in that order? That's the last one we left off with in this discussion. Not pouches.
Waterproof fur.
Yeah, they do have waterproof fur. What else?
Flat bill.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that, since that's in the name. You're missing the most important one.
Lay eggs.
Yeah, they're still mammals that nature selected to lay eggs. Okay, so one more mammal, then we'll get rolling here. Any type of mammal.
Shrews.
Okay, so then since they probably feed on insects, right?
Yep.
Feeding on insects is your clue. They must be in the order Chiroptera. No, we just said they feed on insects.
That would mean
Oh, maybe it's in the order Xanthara, since they feed on insects. All three of those are true, but when you are picking moles and shrews, this is the point we're trying to make, you're not wrong, okay? Keep that in mind. You're not wrong. You just said feed on insects, so I'm being cruel and mean and saying you must be talking about these animals, which we're not, because there's multiple mammals that feed on insects, whether they are anteaters, okay, which is in the order Xanthara, or if they're in the order Chiroptera, which are your bats, which also feed upon insects. We're referring to the moles and shrews, which also feed on insects, so you had correctly said insectivora. And what might be a characteristic besides feeding upon insects for this order of mammals? To say something about their metabolic rate, perhaps. Yeah, they've got a high metabolic rate. And one of the aspects that makes that possible, are insects an easy prey item to come across?
Yeah.
Certainly, okay? So therefore, don't just associate feeding upon insects the only characteristic for insectivora, or else it's not going to end well for yourself. Okay, so we left off with carnivora. So what are some characteristics of animals within the order Carnivora or Carnivora, however you want to pronounce it? Those are the animals, but what are some characteristics, though?
Strong jaws.
Okay, you got a strong jaw.
Sense of smell.
And not just the smell, probably more importantly, the what? Because since these are carnivorous animals, what type of vision do they have?
Good vision.
Well, I know that we know they have good vision. But their eyes, are they pointed to the side or are they pointed straight ahead? We hear the side, we hear straight ahead. So it's one or the other. Can these types of animals judge depth? Have a good depth perception? Do you think? Well, so what are some examples of these? You said dogs is one. Raccoons is another. So with your first example, with that of dogs, we know that they can perform tricks, correct? So upon doing this, when you watch some of these, per se, dog shows, and they have different types of gates that they have to jump over, it's not that it's difficult for horses and cattle to do that. They can. But why might it be easier for an animal like a dog to do that?
Their eyes point straight forward.
And when their eyes point straight forward, why is that important?
They can see more up and down. Maybe.
You're close. That's two dimensions.
I can see out instead of just like I can see the front instead of what's
Right. So it's not only just the X and the Y axis, but also the Z axis, which means we can say that white sweatshirt, and you're tilting back in that chair, but that white sweatshirt is about 12 feet away from this desk. How would a person know that? Because they actually can judge depth, okay? So, again, this is approximately where we had left off, okay? So, again, you're not wrong when you gave these examples, okay? Why is that canine teeth important, do you think? You'd also have to know Google. I don't know. It just looks like we're Googling. We're probably not. Okay? So, first of all, you have to know what are the functions of probably the 4 types of teeth that these animals have in their jaw. So, what might some of these types of teeth be?
Canines.
Canines is one.
Premolar.
Okay, premolars or bicuspids. Molars, and then finally incisors. Okay? So, what might the function of those types of teeth be? If the bicuspids are shearing, tearing everything apart, those canines have a assorted function.
Puncturing prey.
So when it punctures them, that allows them to, you could say, actually helps them hold on to maybe get a better bite. But an underlying function of these canine teeth, especially for, you could say, larger cats, rather than having to exert themselves and do a throat bite, which many large cats will do, you can also puncture the windpipe. Well, not wind. What's a better term for windpipe? Since someone was coughing here earlier because they had something go down the wrong, they say they went down the wrong tube or wrong pipe. Windpipe is the common name for, starts with a T.
Trachea.
Yeah, for the trachea, okay? So what we're referring to here is if those teeth can actually just puncture that trachea, that's going to suffocate the animal too. Because what happens is as air is coming in through the mouth and through the back of the throat, if there's a big hole in their trachea, it certainly isn't going to go all the way down into their lungs. It's just going to go out that hole that just punctured that. And this animal is no longer on this earth, but the most notorious, okay, for big cats might be who? You know it, you just don't know you know it.
Saber.
Okay, so it's believed that those really large canine teeth were not for puncturing at all. That this would actually get behind the trachea and actually just sever that as it closed. Okay, it might puncture it, but it's certainly going to as that jaw closes. Because what's true of those teeth? They come to a point, but do they get narrower or wider when they fix into the gums?
Wider.
They get a lot wider, so that's going to put pressure on that trachea. It's certainly just going to break it like a piece of string, if you want to look at it that way. Because these two things go hand in hand. These teeth with very strong jaws, okay? Then a lesser known aspect that, again, you would not know is jaguars. Probably have one of the strongest bite forces for mammals, probably behind that of maybe the jackal and the bear. But I believe their hunting aspects is they actually crack the skull open, okay? When they close their jaw down, fracture the skull, and that's what kills their prey item. Now, got to be careful with that because should one of those types of teeth break, what's that going to do to the animal?
Can't hunt them
So,
as well.
so if it can't hunt,
Right, starve.
not unless it comes across people. Just don't be the slowest individual.
Yep.
Just got to be faster than the slowest. I'm toast, so yeah.
I'm pretty quick.
Okay, so you probably don't have anything to fear. All right, So moving on then, okay? Here we see your aquatic carnivores, okay? Whether they're river otters, sea otters, or animals to that nature. So one of the things, okay, limbs modified as you can see that of flippers. Why not just have toes or claws or something to that effect? Nature selected them not to because it's going to not be beneficial, but someone said correctly, I would be led to believe, something about speed. It's going to slow them down. Okay? So probably what had happened is, I don't know, maybe weasels and maybe muskrats and mink probably started to move further and further into water, and what nature selected those animals to do is that the more streamlined they became, and then the more flippers from actually clawed toes would start to be an advantage, could probably outcompete them. Now, that doesn't mean that the mink and you said the muskrat, right? It doesn't mean that they went extinct because they're still around today. It's just that an opportunity was available for these animals to go further out into water, and when that happened, it took advantage of that, and then their bodies started to change. Okay? And that's why you see a totally different order of Pinnipedia, which is animals that would really closely resemble that of fishers, badgers, wolverines, probably very similar in nature because those are carnivores as well. But nonetheless, those are terrestrial, found on land, and here you see your streamlined carnivores. Okay? The largest land mammal, there's many different tricky questions that you can give when you say the largest, okay? Whether it's the largest mammal, the largest land mammal, and then the largest land carnivore, okay? So with those three examples, who is the largest mammal? It was a very general question. You're being too specific. Well, it would be if they were still here. Okay, you're given the order. We want the mammal. But again, you're being specific. We just said very vaguely, the largest mammal on Earth. You're going to say, oh, I knew that. We said you're being too specific because you're given terrestrial mammals. Is there something larger than the ones that you gave? Someone in here knows that they just don't want to say anything. Someone in here, come on, bail us out here. We've discussed them already.
Is there anything more like last semester?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear yours.
Was it one of the before the dinosaur things?
No,
Alright.
no, because those would be all reptiles. They've got baleen because those are specialized. Say that again. Okay, there's something that's a little larger than that.
I told you it wasn't a whale. Hey, why didn't you say it, Taylor? You said it
Okay. Killer whales, yes, those are orca, but we're talking about the blue whales. And then in, is it the author James Orwell that wrote, not 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but Moby Dick, I think. Is that correct? For those of you who know, I think it was Captain Cook was, I wouldn't say forever, but was in battle with this whale that was actually white, okay? And that's what the plot of this book is about this very large whale that actually capsizes the ship. And I want to say that's the name, not only the name of the book, but yes, Moby Dick is certainly a classic icon as far as American literature is concerned. Okay, so if that is the largest mammal, what is the largest land mammal? We've established that. So then finally, what is the largest land carnivore? Well, that might be true, but look at what type of teeth that they have.
A woolly mammoth.
Okay, they would have teeth similar to this too, because we said land carnivore, which means they have to be flesh eaters.
Easy plan, so.
Well, you got to go north.
Polar bears.
Yeah, polar bears are the largest land carnivores, okay? Because what you see here, they have two types of teeth. Even though they do not shed or cut, let's say, different types of materials with their teeth, because these incisors are now tusks. So how do they actually take in their food source?
They stab them with their tusks and then
No. Tusks really aren't for
Yes.
food gathering. Okay. So what would they use to feed themselves? Yes, because an ordinary suitcase just would not do.
Yeah, you can stomp it and then. I mean,
That just... No one even was paying attention.
I was just saying.
Okay, I think you got it. Well,
What happened though?
well, you weren't paying attention. You missed the moment. Okay. So, moving on, I want to say that puts us, oh, that doesn't have all of them on there. We don't have too many left. 1, 2, 3. That's the last one, I bet. Okay. We'll just wrap up with this one today. Don't associate these deer and cattle as just being ungulates. Does anyone think they might know why? Who might be some of their closest relatives that's not in this order, but have many characteristics similar to these?
Moose?
Elk, moose, those would still be in this order. And someone might have said it, I just did not hear it. Because when you visualize these animals, here, especially these two, you'd have to know, what does this mean? Hooves. And what's true about these hooves? Can you be a little more specific?
They're separated.
Yeah, so that means they've got 2 toes. So that must mean there's also a hooved mammal that does not have 2 toes or an even number, but rather an odd number.
1 or 3.
Yeah, 1 or 3. Actually, yes, rhinoceroses actually have 3 toes, I believe. Hippopotami, I think, have 5 toes. But the one you might associate the most would be these guys, horses and zebras, because they've got 1 toe on each foot. Okay, so I think that's a good place to stop. We will continue with this tomorrow, and we'll have some of these questions that we've been talking about that will probably appear on your exam. Like, for instance, some of these large animals we talk about. Largest land carnivore, largest mammal, largest land mammal, okay? Things like that. We'll also talk about what it means to be endothermic and wrap that up tomorrow. We'll catch up to you next time.